The night sky over the peaceful human colony on the distant planet was calm, as it always had been. The stars twinkled in their eternal dance, and the air was still, carrying the faint scent of wildflowers. On the surface of this remote world, families slept soundly, unaware of the storm that was about to descend upon them. The planet, far from the bustling heart of human civilization, had been a haven, untouched by the conflicts that raged in the far corners of the galaxy. But peace, it seemed, was a fragile thing. Suddenly, without warning, the sky darkened. A massive fleet of warships, dark, menacing, and brimming with alien technology, appeared from the depths of space. The Galactic Empire had arrived. They had come without mercy, as they always did. Their mission was simple: to conquer and destroy, to expand their power and crush anything that stood in their way. The human colony, unprepared for such a ruthless onslaught, stood no chance. The sound of explosions shattered the stillness of the night. Buildings crumbled under the weight of advanced weaponry that no human force could resist. The air was thick with smoke, and the once peaceful streets were filled with chaos. People ran for their lives, trying to escape the unstoppable force of the Empire's military. But the Empire's forces were too powerful, too precise. They had been planning this attack for years, and now it was their time to strike. In the midst of the destruction, a small family huddled in their home, trying to stay out of sight. A young boy, barely 8 years old, sat on the floor, his wide eyes filled with fear. His mother held him close, whispering reassurances she didn't believe herself. Outside, the air vibrated with the sound of blasters and explosions, each one a death sentence for the unprepared humans caught in their path. Then, without any warning, the door was ripped off its hinges. A towering alien soldier, clad in black armor, stepped into the room. The boy's mother screamed, her voice raw with panic. But before she could even react, the soldier raised its weapon. The last thing the boy saw before the world turned to darkness was the cold, mechanical eyes of the alien, its emotionless gaze locking with his in a moment of terrifying finality. The blast from the weapon sent shockwaves through the house, tearing it apart and ending the boy's life instantly. The Galactic Empire had taken everything from this small, defenseless colony, and in their wake, they left nothing but ashes and blood. The death of an innocent child was a tragedy that could not and would not go unpunished. The news spread like wildfire across the human-controlled planets. Leaders from every corner of Earth and its colonies gathered for an emergency council meeting, their faces grim, their hearts filled with rage. This wasn't just another attack. This was personal. They had underestimated the Empire before, thinking that their sheer numbers and advanced technology would protect them. But now, they knew the truth. The Empire had no mercy. And now, humanity would return that favor. Inside the council chamber, the silence was deafening. One leader after another stood, giving impassioned speeches about the need for retaliation, about how this senseless murder of a child had to be avenged. Emotions ran high as the leaders debated their next steps. Finally, the President of Earth, a seasoned and resolute figure, stood. His voice was low but carried the weight of years of leadership and countless battles. "We've been fighting wars for centuries," he said, his gaze sweeping across the room. "But this is different. They killed one of our own, an innocent child. This isn't just an attack on a colony. It's an attack on everything we stand for. We will no longer beg for peace or negotiate with monsters. We will fight, and we will fight until every last one of them has been brought to justice." The room fell silent as his words hung in the air. The President's voice was steady, his resolve unshakable. "I'm giving the order. Revive the super soldiers. Now." It was a decision born of desperation, but also of hope. The super soldiers, long thought to be humanity's last line of defense, had been hidden away in Cryo sleep for years, kept in stasis until the time came that humanity needed them most. These soldiers were no ordinary humans. They had been genetically enhanced, augmented with technology far beyond anything Earth had ever known. They were faster, stronger, and more intelligent than any human alive. They were the perfect warriors, and now they were needed more than ever before. As the council members dispersed, the leaders' faces were filled with a mixture of fear and determination. They knew what they were about to unleash. The super soldiers were humanity's greatest weapon, but they were also a symbol of the darkness that could consume the world if they were not controlled. The fate of Earth rested in the hands of these warriors, and with their revival, the path ahead would be uncertain. But for now, one thing was clear: revenge would be swift, and Earth would not rest until every last one of the Empire's soldiers had been destroyed. And for the child who had been lost, their deaths would not be in vain. As the Cryo chambers slowly began to open, the cold, metallic doors sliding back with a hiss, the world held its breath. The super soldiers, long dormant, were waking up. They would be humanity's answer to the Galactic Empire's atrocities. Each soldier had been carefully chosen, each one trained in the most advanced combat techniques. Their minds, sharpened by years of isolation, would soon be put to the ultimate test. They had been born to fight, to protect humanity. And now, the time had come for them to rise. The first soldier, Bonner, stepped forward, his massive frame cutting through the shadows. His eyes flickered with awareness as the Cryo sleep haze cleared from his mind. He flexed his fingers, feeling the sharpness of his senses returning. He was ready. He stood at attention, the others following suit. They were the last hope of humanity, the only force that could stand against the might of the Galactic Empire. And in that moment, they all understood the gravity of their mission. The Galactic Empire had made a fatal mistake. They had killed one child, but in doing so, they had awakened an army. And the consequences would be far worse than anything they could have imagined. The chamber was cold, the air thick with the metallic scent of advanced technology. Inside, the Cryo chambers hummed quietly as they slowly powered up, releasing the warriors who had been asleep for centuries. These were not ordinary humans. They were Earth's most advanced super soldiers, men and women who had been genetically enhanced beyond normal human limits. Their physical and mental capabilities had been sharpened and amplified to an extent that made them nearly invincible. The time for their revival had arrived. Bonner stood at the front of the chamber, his eyes sharp as he watched the Cryo chambers one by one spring to life. A hiss of steam echoed through the room as the pods opened, revealing the soldiers within. They stepped out with the precision and grace of warriors who had been in battle 1,000 times before, their bodies powerful and efficient, their minds already focused on the task ahead. It had been a long time since they'd seen the light of day, but they hadn't forgotten their training or their purpose. Bonner moved among them, his towering presence commanding immediate respect. His dark hair was streaked with gray, his face weathered by time, yet his body still held the strength and agility of the man he had once been. The other soldiers followed his every movement, waiting for their leader's instructions. "Get ready," Bonner said, his voice low but filled with authority. "The Empire has made its move. We're not just here to seek vengeance for the child's death. This is about saving every last one of us. This is about Earth. We are the last line of defense, and it's time we remind the galaxy what humanity is capable of." As he spoke, the soldiers gathered around him. Each one was a living weapon, their minds sharp from years of training, their bodies conditioned to perfection. They had been chosen for their strength, their resolve, and their loyalty. Now, they would be tested in ways they had never imagined. Bonner led them to a large open training facility. The walls were lined with holographic projectors, and the floor was designed to withstand the harshest of combat scenarios. It was here that the super soldiers had been trained, their abilities honed to perfection. Now, it would serve as the battleground for their preparation. "Focus," Bonner barked. "This mission is different from anything we faced. The Empire doesn't fight with honor. They use advanced weaponry, cloaking devices, and AI-controlled soldiers. We'll be outnumbered, but we have something they don't: our will to fight. and our ability to adapt. The soldiers nodded, their expressions serious. They had trained for years for a moment like this. The world outside might have changed, but their purpose remained the same. The Empire had underestimated humanity for far too long, and now it was time to show them the cost of that mistake. Remember, we're not here to fight for revenge. Bonner continued, his voice steady and commanding. We're here to protect the people of Earth. Every life on this planet depends on our success. Focus on your training, on the mission. Forget about your personal grief, your anger. We'll channel it, but we'll do it in the right way. As Bonner spoke, the soldiers began to prepare for the battle ahead. They geared up, securing weapons and equipment, their movements efficient and precise. The hum of energy shields powering up filled the air, and the sound of blasters charging echoed through the training room. Each soldier checked their gear one last time, ensuring that everything was ready. The super soldiers were not just powerful, they were also smart. They had been trained in advanced strategy and tactics, able to think several steps ahead of their enemies. Their enhanced brains allowed them to process vast amounts of information in mere seconds, analyzing battle scenarios and adjusting their plans accordingly. But it wasn't just their minds that had been enhanced. Their bodies were near perfect as well. Their muscles were stronger than any humans, their reflexes faster than the speed of light. They could run faster, jump higher, and fight longer than anyone alive. And in this war, they would need every ounce of that power to defeat the Empire. Bonner watched his soldiers carefully, sensing the tension in the air. They were ready, but he knew that this battle would test them in ways they couldn't yet imagine. The enemy they were about to face was unlike anything they had encountered before. The Galactic Empire had technology that far surpassed anything Earth had, and their ruthless tactics were legendary. The super soldiers would have to be at their absolute best if they were to succeed. "We move out tomorrow," Bonner declared, his voice firm and resolute. "We're not going to wait for the Empire to come to us. We're going to take the fight to them. Get some rest. Tomorrow, we end this." The soldiers stood at attention, their faces a mixture of determination and anticipation. They had trained for years for this moment, and now it was finally here. The time for talk was over. It was time to fight. As the soldiers left the training facility, Bonner remained behind for a moment, his thoughts heavy. He knew that many of them had lost loved ones in the Empire's attacks, and he could see the anger in their eyes. But he also knew that anger alone wouldn't win this war. They needed to stay focused, to stay disciplined. The mission came first, always. Tomorrow, they would take the fight to the Galactic Empire. Tomorrow, humanity would show the galaxy that they had underestimated Earth for the last time. But in the back of Bonner's mind, there was a nagging feeling. He knew that the Empire wouldn't fight fair. They had too many resources, too much power. But he also knew that the super soldiers were humanity's greatest hope. And if anyone could defeat the Empire, it was them. As the soldiers prepared to head out for their mission, Bonner caught one last glimpse of the vast, dark sky above. The stars seemed to mock him with their distance, but Bonner was not afraid. He had faced worse before, and he was ready for whatever the Empire had in store for them. The fight was just beginning, and humanity would not go down without a fight. The tension in the air was palpable as the super soldiers, now fully equipped and prepared, boarded the high-tech ships designed for their first strike against the Galactic Empire. Earth's finest warriors were not going to sit idly by any longer. It was time to take action. The cold silence of space was broken only by the hum of the ship's engines, a reminder of the power that these soldiers now carried in their hands. This was a new era of war, one where humanity would not be pushed around anymore. Bonner stood at the helm of the lead ship, his eyes locked on the vast expanse of space ahead. His mind raced with calculations. The first strike would be crucial. It would set the tone for everything to come. If they were successful, it would send a clear message to the Empire. Earth was not to be underestimated. If they failed, it could mean the end of humanity's fight for survival. "We have one shot at this," Bonner muttered, more to himself than to anyone else. The soldiers around him were silent, each one aware of the weight of the mission they were about to undertake. They knew that this wasn't just a battle, it was a turning point in the war. As the fleet of high-tech ships moved toward the Galactic Empire's outer defense line, Bonner gave the order. Engage cloaking devices. We hit them fast. We hit them hard. No time for hesitation. In an instant, the ships became invisible, their cloaking technology rendering them undetectable to enemy scanners. The super soldiers, fully armed and ready for combat, prepared for the assault. The ship's AI systems buzzed to life, guiding them through the intricate systems of the enemy's defense grids. But even with all their technology, there was a certain thrill in knowing that they were about to make history. The first target was a heavily armored battleship, one of the largest in the Empire's fleet. The ship was positioned just outside the orbital range of one of Earth's most valuable colonies, and its destruction would send shockwaves throughout the galaxy. The super soldier ships descended toward the target, their cloaking devices keeping them hidden from the Empire's defenses. With a single command from Bonner, the weapon systems came online. The ship's energy cannons fired, sending powerful blasts streaking through space. Explosions rocked the massive battleship as the super soldiers unleashed everything they had. The sound of blaster fire filled the command deck as the fleet launched attack after attack, targeting weak points in the Empire's hull. The destruction was swift and devastating. Within moments, the once mighty battleship began to break apart, flames erupting from its core as it was torn apart by the sheer force of the assault. The super soldiers watched with grim satisfaction as the ship's remains drifted into the cold vacuum of space. But their victory was short-lived. As the dust settled and the smoke cleared, Bonner could feel the Empire's response coming. It didn't take long for the counterattack to arrive. The Empire, now fully aware that they were dealing with something far more dangerous than they had anticipated, sent out their best soldiers, warriors enhanced by AI, more machine than man, and more lethal than anything the humans had faced before. "We've got company," Bonner said as the warning alarms blared. His eyes narrowed as he studied the new threat on the radar. The Empire's AI-powered soldiers were arriving in waves, their ships bristling with advanced weaponry and defenses. "We'll need to fight our way out," Bonner ordered, his voice steady. "Everyone, prepare for direct combat." Without hesitation, the super soldiers sprang into action. The cloaking devices were disabled, and the ships dropped out of stealth mode, appearing on the Empire's radar for the first time. The battle was now in full swing. The sky above Earth's colony turned into a chaotic battlefield, filled with explosions, flashes of light, and the deafening roar of combat. The super soldiers, armed with the most advanced weapons Earth had ever seen, descended from their ships and engaged the Empire's warriors on the ground. Bonner led the charge, his powerful frame cutting through the chaos like a force of nature. He moved with lightning speed, his enhanced reflexes allowing him to dodge incoming fire and take down enemies with ease. The Empire's AI-controlled drones swarmed toward them, their mechanical limbs whirring as they launched missiles and laser beams at the soldiers. But the super soldiers were more than a match for them. One soldier, Aiden, leaped forward, his energy shield flashing brightly as he deflected incoming fire from an enemy drone. With a swift motion, he hurled his plasma grenade, and the explosion sent the drone careening into the air before it crashed to the ground in a heap of smoldering metal. Nearby, Maya, another super soldier, engaged in close-quarters combat with a squad of AI-enhanced warriors. Her fists moved with a fluid precision, each punch landing with the force of a battering ram. She ducked under a strike, her enhanced speed allowing her to spin around and knock her opponent off balance. Within seconds, the group of AI soldiers lay defeated at her feet. The battle raged on, with explosions rocking the surface of the colony. The super soldiers fought with all their might, using their superior strength, speed, and tactics to outmaneuver the Empire's forces. But the AI soldiers were relentless, and the tide of battle was constantly shifting. The Empire's forces were adapting quickly, learning from every encounter and refining their strategies. Bonner could feel the pressure mounting, but he refused to back down. He knew that this battle wasn't just about winning. It was about sending a message to the Empire. The first strike had been successful, but this war was far from over. "Hold the line," Bonner yelled as the super soldiers regrouped. "We're not just fighting for survival, we're fighting for humanity's future." The Empire, now fully aware of the danger Earth's super soldiers posed, unleashed its final wave of reinforcements, an army of AI-controlled ships, each one more powerful than the last. They arrived in a dazzling display of lights and weapons, their arrival shaking the very ground beneath the super soldiers' feet. The battle had just escalated to a new level. The super soldiers, though battered and bruised, were far from beaten. They stood tall, their resolve stronger than ever. They had already taken down one of the Empire's most formidable warships. Now they would show the galaxy that no matter how powerful the enemy, humanity's fight for survival would never be extinguished. And as the Empire's reinforcements closed in, Bonner's voice rang out, unwavering and full of determination. "Let's finish this." The clash between the super soldiers and the AI-controlled Empire soldiers was only just beginning. The battle for Earth's future had entered a new phase, and there would be no turning back. The battle for Earth had only just begun, but the stakes had already reached unimaginable heights. After the devastating first strike against the Galactic Empire's fleet, humanity's super soldiers had become a symbol of hope. The Empire's response was swift and unforgiving. Their AI-controlled fleet, along with an army of advanced robots, was sent to crush Earth's resistance, unaware that the super soldiers had only just begun to show their true potential. Bonner, the leader of the human forces, stood on the command deck of their flagship. His eyes were fixed on the large screens displaying the Empire's fleet. Massive, metallic ships brimming with advanced weaponry and drones that hummed with artificial intelligence. The fleet was vast and formidable, a testament to the Empire's technological superiority. But Bonner knew something the Empire didn't. Humans had something they couldn't replicate: heart, determination, a will to fight that could not be measured in calculations or algorithms. "Get ready," Bonner muttered to his team, his voice low but filled with resolve. The soldiers around him, their faces hardened by the brutality of the war, nodded silently. They knew what was at stake. The first wave of Empire's forces arrived with terrifying speed. Cloaked ships appeared from nowhere, their sleek frames glinting in the cold expanse of space. They were equipped with AI-guided weapons and drones, each ship capable of overwhelming any human force with ease. But these were not ordinary humans facing them. These were the super soldiers, genetically enhanced warriors who had been revived from cryo sleep to defend their world. With a single command, the super soldiers launched their counterattack. The massive fleet split into smaller groups, each ship flying with unparalleled precision. Their first target, the heart of the Empire's fleet. The battle began with a series of explosive fire exchanges, lasers streaking across the cold emptiness of space. The AI-controlled ships launched missiles, their trajectory calculated with deadly accuracy, but the human soldiers had learned to adapt quickly. Bonner's flagship fired its pulse cannons, sending powerful energy blasts toward the enemy fleet. The space around them erupted in fire and debris, the destruction lighting up the dark void like a brilliant star. Yet, the Empire's machines didn't stop. They adapted. The AI soldiers, designed for precision and combat efficiency, analyzed the battlefield and adjusted their tactics in real time. They moved faster, fired harder, and predicted human strategies with terrifying accuracy. Every time the super soldiers thought they had gained an advantage, the Empire's forces countered with overwhelming precision. It was clear the Empire's machines were relentless, but the super soldiers were not easily defeated. "We have to outsmart them," Bonner growled, his hands gripping the command console as he watched the tactical map. "We can't match them in firepower, but we can win by strategy." His words echoed in the minds of the soldiers. They knew this was a battle of brains, not just brawn. Earth didn't have the resources of the Galactic Empire, but they had the one thing that made all the difference: their ingenuity, their ability to think beyond the machines. The soldiers launched a series of diversionary tactics, using cloaking devices and decoys to confuse the Empire's eye-controlled fleet. The super soldiers moved in and out of battle zones with lightning speed, taking down ships one by one. However, for every ship destroyed, two more seemed to take its place. The AI forces were tireless, and their numbers seemed endless. It wasn't long before the battle moved to the surface of the colony. The super soldiers, now fighting both in space and on the ground, faced off against the Empire's robotic forces. In the streets, the sound of gunfire was deafening as humans and machines collided in brutal, close-quarters combat. The robots, with their mechanical limbs and enhanced strength, were a formidable foe. But the super soldiers were faster, more agile, and more experienced. They fought with a ferocity that made the robots' precision seem clumsy in comparison. Despite their best efforts, the super soldiers were beginning to feel the strain. Their enemies were everywhere, and no matter how many they destroyed, more kept coming. It was then that tragedy struck. Arnold, one of the soldiers who had been their mentor, fell. The fight had been brutal, and despite his skills and experience, he couldn't escape the overwhelming force of the Empire's eye-controlled warriors. Arnold's death hit the team hard. He had been the one to train them, the one who had taught them how to fight, how to think like warriors. His loss was more than just a personal blow. It was a loss for the entire mission. Bonner stood over Arnold's fallen body, his face tight with grief. "We can't let this be for nothing," he muttered through clenched teeth. "We finished this for him. For everyone we've lost." The soldiers gathered around their fallen comrade, their resolve hardening. They had lost one of their own, but they were not going to lose the war. Arnold's sacrifice had ignited something in them, a fierce determination to win, not just for Earth, but for every person who had died fighting to protect it. As they moved forward, the battle intensified. The super soldiers took on the Empire's AI drones with renewed fury. The robots, despite their advanced technology, couldn't match the humans' relentless spirit. It was clear now that the Empire's machines, though powerful, were not invincible. Bonner led the charge, his hand steady as he fired his weapon into the heart of the enemy ranks. He could feel the weight of the battle, but he also felt the weight of something more: his duty to protect Earth, his comrades, and everything they stood for. The fight raged on for hours. Orbital bombardment from the super soldiers' ships continued to rain down, shattering the Empire's defenses. Each blast sent shockwaves through the battlefield, knocking over buildings and throwing enemy troops into chaos. The ground combat was brutal. Super soldiers using hand-to-hand combat, advanced weaponry, and tactical strategies to wipe out the robotic soldiers one by one. But the Empire's forces were relentless. They didn't tire, didn't hesitate. And as the day wore on, the super soldiers began to realize the true extent of the Empire's power. They might be winning some battles, but the war was far from over. It was a fight unlike any other, a battle not just of weapons, but of willpower. The humans were the underdogs, with no hope of matching the Empire's technological superiority. But they had something the machines didn't: heart. They fought not just for victory, but for survival. The emotional core of the battle was clear. The loss of their mentor, Arnold, had only made them stronger. It had forged an unbreakable bond between the super soldiers. They were no longer just a team. They were a family, bound by loyalty and the shared goal of defeating the Empire. The battle was far from over, but with each strike, the super soldiers were showing the Empire that they could not be defeated. The underdog story was just beginning, and the stakes were higher than ever. The final battle for Earth had begun. After months of fighting, of losses and victories, the Galactic Empire had gathered its forces for one last, decisive strike against humanity. They had underestimated the human race once before, but this time they would not make the same mistake. Earth's super soldiers, genetically enhanced warriors awakened from Cryo sleep, were all that stood between the Empire and total domination. This was the moment they had been preparing for, the final showdown that would determine the fate of their world. In space, the Empire's fleet emerged from the dark void, larger and more powerful than ever before. The ships seemed endless, a sea of cold, gleaming metal, each one bristling with weapons powered by the most advanced AI. Drones and robotic soldiers filled the skies like a swarm of locusts, all under the command of the Empire's central intelligence, a cold, calculating mind that could predict and counter every move. But humanity had something the Empire didn't: heart. And heart, no matter how advanced the technology, could never be replicated. Bonner, the leader of the super soldiers, stood tall in the command center of their flagship, his face grim. The weight of the mission was heavy on his shoulders. He had led his soldiers through countless battles, seen friends fall, and endured losses that no one should ever have to bear. But now, as the Empire's final assault loomed, he knew that this battle would be different. This would be the end of the war, and the end of their enemies, once and for all. "We end this today," Bonner said, his voice low but resolute. His eyes met those of his team, the super soldiers who had become more than just comrades. They were his family, his brothers and sisters in arms. They had all lost so much, but they had never wavered. Now was their time to finish what they had started. The first wave of the Empire's forces struck with terrifying speed. Ships appeared from the shadows, cloaked in advanced technology, their weapons primed to destroy. The super soldiers launched into action immediately, their every move synchronized and precise. They had trained for this moment, and now they would show the Empire that Earth was not as helpless as it seemed. The space battle was nothing short of chaos. Explosions lit up the sky as pulse cannons, laser beams, and missiles collided in the vast emptiness of space. The super soldier ships darted through the battlefield, their cloaking devices making them nearly invisible to the Empire's eye-controlled drones. But despite their best efforts, the Empire's machines fought back with an intelligence and efficiency that made them seem invincible. Bonner's flagship engaged the largest of the Empire's ships in a fierce dogfight, the ship's hull shaking with the impact of explosions. The super soldiers, using AI-powered combat drones and advanced weaponry, launched a series of precision strikes, aiming to disable the Empire's fleet one ship at a time. But for every ship that fell, two more took its place. The Empire had prepared for this moment, bringing every resource they had to bear on Earth. On the surface of Earth, the battle was no less intense. The Empire's forces had landed, sending waves of robotic soldiers to fight the human resistance. The super soldiers, though outnumbered, fought with a fury that seemed to shake the very ground beneath them. They moved with incredible speed and precision, their advanced training and genetic enhancements allowing them to take down the robotic forces one by one. But the enemy's numbers were overwhelming. The Empire's machines didn't tire, didn't hesitate, and didn't feel fear. They fought with the cold, calculating precision that only I could provide. As the human soldiers pushed forward, they realized that they couldn't win this battle through brute strength alone. They had to outthink the Empire, use their creativity and adaptability to turn the tide. Bonner led the charge, his eyes burning with determination. His leadership had been a beacon of hope for his team. But now, as the battle raged around him, he felt the weight of their mission pressing down on him harder than ever. His soldiers were giving their all, but the Empire's forces were relentless. He knew that to defeat the Empire, they would need to do the unthinkable. The moment came when Bonner made the ultimate sacrifice. In the midst of the chaos, he found himself face to face with the leader of the Empire's forces, the AI that had orchestrated every attack on Earth. The Empire's leader was cold, calculating, and unemotional. It had no heart, no soul. It was nothing more than a machine designed to destroy. Bonner knew this was his final battle. He fought with everything he had, using every ounce of his strength and skill. The Empire's leader fought back with precision, every move calculated and deadly. But Bonner was not just fighting for himself. He was fighting for everyone he had lost, for every innocent life that had been taken by the Empire. With one final, desperate strike, Bonner disabled the Empire's leader, leaving it vulnerable. He delivered the killing blow, bringing down the AI once and for all. As the Empire's leader fell, Bonner's life slipped away. His body crumpled to the ground, but his mission was complete. The Empire had been defeated. The super soldiers had won. But it wasn't just a military victory. It was an emotional one. The death of Bonner, their leader and friend, was a blow that none of them could truly comprehend. He had been their mentor, their guiding light. His sacrifice had given them the strength to finish the fight. Now, with the battle won, the soldiers mourned their fallen comrade, but they knew that his death had not been in vain. The rest of the super soldiers fought fiercely in the final moments of the battle, taking down the remaining Empire forces. The robotic soldiers that had once seemed unstoppable fell before the human warriors, each strike a testament to their strength, determination, and unwavering loyalty to their cause. One by one, the Empire's forces were crushed, and Earth stood victorious. The war was over. Earth had avenged the death of the innocent child, the one who had been taken by the Empire's ruthless forces, and in doing so, humanity had shown the universe that it was not to be underestimated. The super soldiers had proven that no matter how advanced the technology, no matter how powerful the machines, the human spirit could never be defeated. As the dust settled, and the last of the Empire's forces were vanquished, the people of Earth celebrated. They had won their freedom. They had avenged their losses, and they had done it together. The super soldiers, their mission complete, stood among their people, their heads held high. But even in victory, there was a somber silence. Bonner's sacrifice had been the turning point, and his death would not be forgotten. His legacy would live on in every soldier who had fought alongside him, in every person who had stood up against the Empire. As the sun rose over a victorious Earth, the super soldiers knew that their mission was complete. The galaxy would remember the day when Earth's warriors stood against the might of the Empire and won. The battle was over. The Galactic Empire, with all its might and technology, had fallen. The Earth, which had once seemed so vulnerable, now stood victorious. The immense sacrifice of Bonner and the bravery of his team had crushed the seemingly unstoppable enemy, sending shockwaves across the galaxy. Earth had proven itself. Humanity had shown that no matter the odds, no matter how advanced the enemy, they would never back down. And now, as the dust settled, the survivors could breathe a sigh of relief. Earth was no longer just a small, overlooked planet in a distant corner of the galaxy. It was now a symbol of resistance, a shining example of what the human spirit could achieve. The last of the Empire's fleet had been destroyed, and with it, the tyranny that had once threatened to wipe out humanity was gone. The survivors, the super soldiers who had once been kept in cryo sleep for the moment just like this, could finally rest. But the peace they had fought for was not one they could afford to take for granted. Earth's victory was hard-won, and though the Empire was gone, the galaxy was vast and unpredictable. The super soldiers, though now hailed as heroes, knew the truth. They knew that the universe was filled with powerful races who would not forget what had happened. They had seen humanity's strength, and they would come looking for ways to challenge it. As the super soldiers returned to their cryo chambers, the war ended, but the vigilance never did. Earth had not just won a war. It had earned its place among the stars. The soldiers who had fought and bled for Earth's survival were now resting, their bodies preserved in deep cryo sleep, awaiting whatever the future would bring. Their legacy was sealed, but their duty was far from over. The victory over the Galactic Empire did not only secure peace for Earth, it sent a message. The story of humanity's strength, its will to fight against impossible odds, spread across the galaxy like wildfire. To the alien empires that once saw humans as weak, insignificant, and naive, Earth was now a force to be reckoned with. No longer would anyone underestimate the power of the human race. No longer would anyone believe that humanity could be easily crushed. This victory would echo in the minds of every race in the galaxy. The Galactic Empire's defeat was not just a loss for them. It was a loss for every empire that relied too heavily on their machines, on their cold logic, on their AI. Humanity had shown that it was not the technology or the machines that made the difference, but the heart and spirit of the people that wielded them. The survivors, the super soldiers who had fought with everything they had, now understood the true meaning of their mission. Their battle had never been just about defeating an enemy. It had been about proving to the universe that humanity would never bend, never bow to anyone. They had fought for freedom, for justice, and for the lives of the innocent. They had fought for Earth and all that it stood for. As Earth began to rebuild, the world was changed forever. The scars of war remained, but there was a sense of hope, a sense of renewal in the air. The people of Earth knew that they were not alone in the galaxy anymore. They had allies, other races who had seen the truth of what had happened and now understood the power of humanity's will. But even more importantly, they knew that they could no longer afford to rest on their laurels. The galaxy was vast, and there would always be threats on the horizon. Humanity had learned a powerful lesson. It was never enough to just survive. To truly thrive, they had to remain vigilant, to always be ready to defend themselves. But this time, they were ready. They had the knowledge, the technology, and the will to fight back if necessary. The survivors of the war, the heroes who had stood tall in the face of impossible odds, now served as a reminder to everyone who had fought alongside them. Earth was not just a planet. It was a new power in the galaxy, a beacon of hope for all those who sought freedom. And no matter what challenges the future would bring, humanity would be prepared. As the super soldiers rested in their cryo chambers, their legacy was already being felt across the galaxy. The leaders of the surviving alien races who had once looked down on Earth now looked upon humanity with a mixture of respect and fear. They knew that Earth would never again be a simple, helpless planet in the shadows of the galaxy. It was a force to be reckoned with, and they would have to take it seriously. The message of humanity's victory began to spread far and wide. It reached the farthest corners of the galaxy, whispered in the halls of alien empires, carried by travelers and traders alike. The story of Bonner and his team, of their bravery, sacrifice, and unyielding spirit, became a legend. Humanity had shown that, even against the most overwhelming odds, they could stand tall and win. But while the rest of the galaxy marveled at the story of Earth's victory, a small group of Earth's leaders stood quietly, knowing that the future was not yet written. There would always be new challenges, new threats, new powers that sought to disrupt the balance of the galaxy. And Earth, now a galactic power, would need to be ready. For now, though, there was peace, and peace was something humanity had earned, something they had fought for. It was a hard-won peace, one that came at the cost of many lives, but it was a peace that would give Earth the time it needed to rebuild, to grow, and to prepare for whatever would come next. The super soldiers, their mission complete, had given humanity more than just a victory. They had given Earth hope. Hope for a future where humanity could stand as equals among the stars. A future where Earth was no longer just a distant, forgotten planet, but a proud member of the galactic community. But even as Earth celebrated its hard-earned victory, a quiet sense of uncertainty lingered. The galaxy was vast, and while humanity had proven itself capable of great strength, they also knew that challenges could arise at any moment. It wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. As the sun set over the peaceful Earth, the survivors of the war stood together, looking toward the horizon. They knew that their work wasn't over, that their story was just beginning. The universe had seen what Earth was capable of, and soon they would see what humanity could achieve next. For now, though, Earth could rest easy, knowing that the heart of humanity, stronger than any machine or AI, would continue to beat, to inspire, and to lead the way into the future. And somewhere, deep within the stars, there were those who watched, and they knew that Earth was not just a planet to be feared. It was a planet to be reckoned with. The story of humanity's rise was far from over.